Hey, what's up, everybody? Let's see how things are going here. What y'all doing tonight? Just gonna kick back, talk a little NAS talk, a little network talk, a little bit of everything with all you all. So, hope you're all having a good night. Let's see what we got going on here. Let's check out the da, 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 da. Hope you guys are doing good. I know I'm doing good. Hope everything is good out there in the YouTube universe. Yeah, so I've had a few NASs, and I do network. I do IT work professionally for a living. Today, I was at a client. Yesterday, I was moving an entire rack because they're putting in new flooring, and I had to hook it all back in for one client. And today, I had to rehook up a bunch of computers for that same client. So, kind of a long weekend. I end up doing that a lot because a lot of these businesses they'll schedule to get stuff done. I either do work in the off hours, or I'll do work on the weekend for the business, so that they aren't down. Because a lot of these networks are really important. They're running their phones, they're running their internet, they're running their, all of their everything through, through their network, and it's important for those to stay online and to stay working. It's an important thing. So yeah, I tend to do a lot of weekend work like that for different clients. Early morning work, like 6 in the morning before the place opens too. So that tends to happen a lot. Um, so I have to make myself available. I have to go where the money's at too. When a job is available, I need to take care of it. Sometimes I won't have any work for a little while, and sometimes I got a whole bunch of work. So, um, but my main subject was going to be to talk about why I stopped using a NAS. And hopefully everything's coming across clear and good, and hopefully you guys are all hearing me really well. At least that's what I hope. Um, and I'm also going to invite people in. I'm sorry about my previous live stream. I lost power. I'm here in California. We just had that atmospheric river. It's caused a lot of flooding, a lot of damage, a lot of problems. And it caused me to have some power outages. So I haven't been able to get some stuff done that I wanted to get done as far as my last live show goes. So I'm trying it out again. Let's hope things don't go dark on me. Maybe I'll stick with power. What's up, Kenneth Mullen? How you doing today? Um, so I wanted to talk about why I stopped using a NAS. Like, there's a lot of talk. I mean, a lot of talk, right? Amongst Plex people, amongst people about their storage, that you should store your stuff on a NAS. And, there's reasons to and reasons not to do that. And I want to talk a little bit about them. A NAS generally falls short for the price when it comes to the processor and performance. One of the benefits to that, though, is it runs on a low wattage system, so you're not taking up as much electricity as you are on a traditional server type machine. There is some middle ground areas you can go with. You can go with what I talked about in a previous video, a micro PC that doesn't use a lot of electricity either. And that machine is a lot more powerful for the money. You can also get a small form factor machine. Those tend to not use as much electricity either. They use a little more, but in the grand scheme of things, they're they're pretty good. Some of the downsides to that, some people will say, well, you know what, NASs are built more for the longevity. They're built with better cooling. They're built with better equipment for longer lasting. Listen, I've torn apart NASs they're just a very minimal computer. There's nothing in there special to make them last a long time, okay? The only reason they're built with low wattage and a low quality processor is to try to help keep the cost down on top of making something that'll run with hard drives inside it, because hard drives get hot. So they need a processor that doesn't get too hot. By separating your hard drives in a separate unit from the main processor, you do two things. You eliminate all that heat, and you're able to run a faster processor, which then makes things run better. This is why I advocate for that. Oh, okay, Ken. Yeah, no problem, man. Gotta do what you gotta do. Gotta work. Thanks for coming by. So I advocate for people to run, even if you need to save space, you can buy a box that'll store 4 or 5 hard drives very easily and cheaply, and then you can buy another unit that will be the brain. What that does is it gives you some flexibility later on, because two things. If you build your network like that, you can upgrade the main server part without having to worry about the storage part. When you get a NAS, the processor is what it is. It's not upgradable. Most of them aren't. Some higher end ones are. Really high end ones, we're talking you're spending $1,500 to $2,500 or more on some of the really expensive QNAPs out there. Those particular units are out of reach for most people. But what you can do is you can get a 6th or 7th gen, which I was showing in my video last night. They had them, half price on from Dell. I mean, some absolutely fabulous deals. And you're talking about $150 for the computer, and that's all you need. You get the computer. Then you go buy yourself a box for $100-something, and then you start filling it with your hard drives. Or you just start with the computer and buy an external drive, and you just start that way. You can go get yourself a 8 terabyte for $120, $140 or something like that, an external. They're not that expensive. Maybe less, I don't know. There's a lot of options out there when it comes to that. And you can start that way. You don't have to get an enclosure. You could just get an external hard drive just to get your feet wet and just to get started. Some of the other benefits to that is, one of the other things I don't like about NASs is that when you format your hard drives on a NAS, they tend to not, what I mean is the drives that are inside the NAS tend to be proprietary for that NAS. You're not going to be able to read them on something else. So if you pull them out of that NAS and want to read the drive to recover data, it becomes a very difficult process. Not really a fan of that. If you hook up the drives hooked up in a NAS, are generally raided so that they get more performance. Now, what a RAID does is it actually takes the drives, hooks a couple of drives together, and it actually takes and uses half of each drive, so that you increase your performance. And that's really important on some networks too. But for your average home network, it's not. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of NASs so that I can talk about them a little more. So here we got a real popular one. The Synologies are really popular. This is an inexpensive, kind of a starter unit for a lot of people. This particular machine is only got 2 hard drives. And there's 4 hard drive versions, etc. I've had a couple of the Synologies, and they're a fine unit. They're not terrible, they're not bad. But what I do want to say is, for $300, you can't. This comes with no hard drives, by the way, diskless. So you still got to buy a hard drive. But for the cost of this unit, you can buy a box and a PC, a micro PC. And some people say, well, a NAS unit's going to be more reliable, right? It's going to last longer. It's not necessarily the case. I've seen them die too, okay? I've seen the hard drives inside them die, or the NAS units themselves die, and it can happen. Any electronics can die. And personally, the compatibility you get from running something like Windows instead of the Synology operating system that they have in there on the disk stations, I think gives you more flexibility for different types of servers that you might want to run. that and gives you more performance. So if you want to run a server that takes advantage of a GPU, you can put a video card in it. If you get a small form factor PC, if you get a, if you want to put more RAM, so like this is a 2 gig, this only has 2 gig of RAM. So this is an entry level one. I was starting, at an entry level. Obviously there's better ones out there, like this one here. Let's see, is more expensive, and usually they're more expensive because either they have a better processor, the RAM's more upgradable, something along those lines. There's tons of models, there's tons of different ones of these different types of NASs out here. So you have lots of options available, but at the end of the day, you have those disadvantages that I talked about. For instance, the hard drive compatibility. If you're going to take the hard drives out of this, after you put hard drives in this and set the hard drives up on this, you're not going to be able to read them on another machine unless you got another Synology NAS. The other downsides, obviously, are there's no really, the upgradability is small. Now, if you go up to $500, $600, $700, you're going to get you're going to get NASs that have a lot more upgradability. Some of them that even will take a video card, etc. But then again, you're still looking at compatibility problems across the board with the hard drives if you want to take them out. If you put the hard drives in a standard USB 3.1 box that's got a fan and cools nice, and then that box is separate from the two units are separated, and you're running a micro PC, or you're running a small form factor PC. The Dells are my preferred of choice. There are other corporate ones by Lenovo and HP. You can look around and find the best deal you can. I have a problem with some of the people saying that you're getting a more reliable machine that's going to last longer out of a NAS, because there's a couple of problems with that. These particular corporate machines are designed to run all day, every day in a hostile business environment, okay, where they're getting really used the heck out of. These machines are not built not to run and not to continue to run really, really well. One of the other things that I have a problem with is, the upgradability is so much more, processor-wise, RAM-wise, hard drive-wise, etc. And the performance is so much more on one of those machines than they are on the NAS. And this is a big deal with something like Plex. So if you want to run Plex, and you're like me and you share it with, several friends, family members, etc., and you want to be able to support a good amount of streams, you want 3 or 4 people to be able to watch it at the same time, or at least that many, if not on as many as 10. You're going to need a machine that's capable of supporting that. And unfortunately, with Plex, if you run the free Plex, and you don't pay for a Plex Pass that gives you that hardware transcoding, you then won't be able to do that very well on one of these free on the free Plex with one of these NASs. Now there's the MyCloud DiskStations. I mean, you can look at all of these. They've got different types of hardware, and I want to speak a little bit specifically about the hardware. Some of them actually have Intel Celeron processors. Some of them have Intel Atom processors, which are actually ARM-based processors. Some of them are running, as you get more expensive, you get into the i3, i5 processors. So that plays a difference in how fast the units are going to run. Specifically, Plex has an issue, right, where they don't support hardware transcoding on ARM at all. So there is no hardware transcoding. You're either going to be able to play the video on your end or not, period. That's it, because the transcoding is what gives a lot of people the ability to actually play videos that may not be, the quality may be too much for the other person to handle on the other end. So you got to understand what that is. And you got to also then go ahead and you can go right to Plex's website, and they'll tell you they recommend a minimum of an i3. So when you're buying these units that have a Celeron in them, that's not even what Plex is telling you the minimum is that you should run. Some of these Celerons work well for a couple of streams, especially if you own a Plex Pass, because they do have the Intel QuickSync technology that gives you some hardware encoding if you pay for a Plex Pass. So that's why a lot of people will say, oh, that's going to be fine, more than enough. Well, what if you want your NAS to do more than just Plex? Plex hits that thing hard. That processor isn't very fast, and when you are running Plex on it, and I've experienced this with my own Synologies that were running Celerons, the rest of the Synology slows way down. So you also should run RAM. Now there is RAM transcoding capabilities with Plex, so having a good amount of RAM is a good thing as well. If you're running a newer Intel processor, you probably, I'm talking 10th, 11th gen, you could probably get away without any transcoding at all, because they're that powerful. But they also have the hardware not without transcoding. You can get away without running a hardware video card for transcoding, because they're that powerful for transcoding with the graphics built into them. I run a 6th gen i5, and it runs really well for me, and I'm running, easily 4 or 5 streams at a time, and they're 1080p streams, most of them. I've, done a few 4Ks, and I was able to do that. I wasn't able to do it with my previous machine, which was a Celeron micro PC and I'm running the free Plex, which is not the paid Plex. So I just wanted to clear a few of those things up for people, about NASs and why I stopped using a NAS. And when I say I stopped using a NAS, I stopped using these type of NASs. Now, a NAS is a network attached storage. I still have a NAS, but my NAS is a Windows-based server type of NAS. So I'm running specifically I'm running that. I'm running a PC that is, it sits and runs all day, every day. So these are some of the things that I wanted to bring up. And I'm going to actually put a link in here for to let people in. And if anybody wants to join, something fall over there. Yeah, if somebody wants to join, I'm going to put a link in here. And they're more than willing to come in and ask me any questions they want to ask, etc. Let's see. And we have Skull's playlist here. Let's see if I can set up some audio here so that
880's in here.
All right, people might be able to hear you. Hold on, let's see. They should be able to hear you through the speakers and through my mic. I think the way I have it set up. Give it a try there, Skulls. Oh, there you go. Okay. Give it a try talking, Skulls, and see if
I'm in.
Okay, I just need to see if I have the audio too high. Talk again. I'm trying to make sure I have.
Is this working? 1, 2, 1, 2?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn you down just a little bit. I think. Let's see if I can adjust this down. Okay, I think we'll probably be all right here.
I already got the mute off.
Yeah, you're good. So I know you have a NAS, and you like your NAS, and that's good. As always, it's always good to have different ideas out there from people. I'm not against NASs. I just switched to the way I did things for the reasons I said at the beginning of the video. And those are all valid reasons, in my opinion, to go that road, especially if you're just setting up a home server network and you're not a business. If you are, even if you are a business, I would I would prefer personally a business go with an actual server like a Dell PowerEdge server if you're a business. And I would say corporate wise, go with some good equipment like that. Get a proper server. I just think that the NAS market, I'm not I'm not sold on it. I just think it's like this niche market that they created, and I think they make a lot of money because it can't cost much to build them. The processor and the hardware that's going into those things is not expensive hardware. The boxes aren't expensive to make. I just feel like they're selling $300 to $500 pieces of hardware that's costing them $100, maybe 150 at the most to make, um, because there's not much in a lot of these. I've torn them apart. The circuit boards and the motherboards there's not much on them. So I'm not sure, in my mind, uh, why they're necessarily a great idea to go with, and everything. So let's go over here. We are in a Google Meets, so if anybody wants to jump in the Google Meets and share a point of view on what you think about a NAS versus running a PC type of network server. Personally, I like my network to all be running the same operating system, so I like Windows. I prefer that to running a NAS because then I have to learn a new operating system. I have to learn how to set everything up inside that NAS operating system, which I've used Synology, I've used QNAPs in my line of work, and I'm just not sold on them. I'm not super thrilled with them myself compared to what else you get on the market for the money. Like I said, if it's a business, I I counsel them to go with an actual server. For a bookkeeper, I recently built a Dell PowerEdge server for a business, and then the business I was at today has a Dell rack mount, blade type of server in it as well. So those machines are far and away better than your standard NAS unit. And it's like as soon as they put this moniker, as soon as they put this label and call it a NAS, right? It seems to me that they purposely just jump the price up. And when you start looking at the QNAPs, which are basically just a really nice PC built that can handle a bunch of hard drives, um, at the end of the day, the higher end, some of the higher end NASs out there, and uh, you got you got older servers that they're calling a NAS now, online, on sale on eBay and etc. And you really got to look at those, because if you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to get one of these things, that can go into a rack, it becomes difficult because to know what you're buying, because you're going to see that the unit maybe has Xeon processors in it, and it has then you're going to see, oh, DDR3 RAM, it's old generation. What's the USB ports on it? You got to make sure what you're buying actually has up up to date technology to handle doing what you might want to do. You need at least USB 3.0 minimum. I mean, and personally, I'm all for, I prefer 3.1 to 3.0. The performance is just a nice jump, and to go to even the newest USB above that, it's a nice little jump too. But then it gets a little more expensive to get a machine that actually has that. Of course, you can add a card into a lot of these machines that'll give you a faster USB as well, depending on the machine that you get too. If you get a
What
server,
QNAP?
Yeah, I mean they take video cards, they take, expansion cards. They basically have a PC motherboard in there. I mean, it's in the high end ones. It's, you can even look up. You can buy a bare bones case. You can buy a bare bones case made for you to build a NAS, your own NAS into it. I even see on YouTube there's some videos that have been like, well, can I build this NAS for cheaper than I can buy a NAS that has the same stuff in it? And so people do some videos like that, which are actually good videos. And for people thinking that you're just getting better quality of something that's made to last a long time because you're buying a NAS, that's just not the case. Corporate desktop machines are built to run all day, every day for years without dying. So, you're getting just as good a quality there. And if you want a server, you can get servers that are made by, HP or Dell. Personally, I like Dell's best, but that just depends on the person. Um, and if anybody else has any wants to share any opinions, feel free. There is a Meets link available for anybody to jump in. So, that's fine. So, you know, anybody's welcome. Because I just wanted to have some conversation about this and tell people why, give people the information why I'm not using a NAS anymore on my network, why I don't have one, and that's the reasons why. There's still good units. There's nothing wrong with running a NAS. You can go ahead and get it. You can go ahead and get a NAS, and you can run it. And I mean, they're going to be good units. Just understand what you're buying and the hardware you're buying and what the capabilities are. If you're buying it specifically for Plex, then please do a little research on Plex's website and check out exactly what Plex says that you need to do X number of streams and what quality, and ask yourself, what is my plan? What am I going to want to do? Do I want to spend the money on this NAS? And then if it's not powerful enough, maybe a little bit down the road, if I want to go into 4K and so on, or better quality videos, then what am I going to do? Am I going to go ahead and just get rid of that NAS and, buy something else, which is what I had to do. I started with a Synology NAS quite a few years ago. My Plex didn't run very well. I wasn't happy. I got rid of it. And I went ahead and got a micro PC, which did okay. But as my quality got more and more people wanted to be on my NAS, family and friends, because I don't sell my NAS or anything. I just share with which is what you're supposed to do. Then I noticed that it just wasn't good enough anymore. Didn't meet the what my requirements were. So that particular Celeron micro PC, it got relegated to the background, and I'm on a small form factor i5. That's a 6th gen, which is running 8 gig of RAM at the moment, I believe, and a 256 gig SSD with a 6 terabyte NAS hard drive for storage, and then I've got external hard drives, and I don't have an external box. My next step is to purchase some 16. I think I'm going to go with some 16 terabyte drives and pick out a box that I want and put, that takes like about 5 hard drives, and I might end up having the external hard drives as my backups and making that unit my primary uh, unit for storing most of my stuff. Maybe take the 6 terabyte NAS drive out of that small form factor machine and put a 16 in there. At the same time, probably upgrade it to an i7 and upgrade the RAM, and then I'm good to go. I also have a video card in there. It takes a small half height video card, so you can put a video card in that as well. So, and there is a link if anybody wants to jump in and join the conversation about their NAS or about what they've got and how their stuff works. Go ahead. Um, while I'm going to actually let me see. I'm going to go to Plex's. I'm going to go to Plex's website because I want to go to their website, right? And so let's go to Plex's website for a second here. So here's Plex, and I can open my Plex and show it off, but I don't really need to. I think you guys have seen enough Plexes to warrant that. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to read from the Plex site, Plex requirements. Let me do a search for Plex requirements right here. I don't think this stuff is talked about enough. Let's go to Google search here. I don't think this stuff is talked about enough. And Plex Media Server requirements support. So here's the support. And as you go down here, they're going to talk about Plex Media Server is compatible with Windows, OS X, Linux, NVIDIA Shield, Netgear, Nighthawk X10 router, many popular NAS devices. But they say they're compatible with these things, these devices right here, but you really have to read the compatibility. So when you go down and you start looking at the information, they talk about running Windows, 64-bit, 32-bit, etc. They talk about CPU. So FreeBSD is an OS that that you're able to run it on as well for free NAS. That's if you build your own NAS up, you can run that operating system. CPU requirements. So as a minimum, we recommend Intel Core i3 or equivalent or faster. So if you look specifically at their minimum requirements, why do I have a black line? What is that? What is that?
What you do on it, man?
I don't know. No. Why I got a black line over here. I think it's the corner. It's a corner of my green screen that's out. That's got a little bit of a. There we go. Okay, got that out. Got to adjust that green screen a little bit. So as we look here, Core i3 or equivalent or faster. So this is your minimum, right? This is your minimum processor that Plex tells you. And this is right on their website. So I'm not making none of this stuff up. This comes from Plex. As you scroll down, let's read a little bit more. While Plex Media Server can install and run on a computer with a slower processor, i.e. an Intel Celeron, you might not have a very good experience depending on your usage. Okay, so these are straight from Plex. Their minimum is a i3 that they recommend. So I would tell you that I would recommend don't go with less than an i3. Generally, any modern computer should meet the minimum. However, if you have multiple people accessing content simultaneously, you'll sometimes require transcoding of content during playback. Then you may need something faster than the minimum. So this is straight from their website. If your computer's CPU is not powerful enough to keep up with transcoding your media, you will notice pausing or buffering as the app waits for the server to catch up. We have additional information to help you figure out what kind of processor you might need for your own particular usage. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that right now. The thing is when you're transcoding, it puts a hurt on the processor. That processor starts working really, really, really hard. If you have something like a Celeron that's in a lot of these NASs, they're only like 2 cores, which means that, they're only going to be able to do 2 streams. And then the rest of the NAS is going to really not be able to do much. And if somebody else is accessing the NAS for something else, to access some data off of it, or say, for instance, you have a FTP server or a HTTP server or some other server, whatever it might be, you then run into issues where you're going to have slowdowns. So this is why I say those processors are too slow, because Plex is telling us they are right here. RAM. In general, Plex Media Server doesn't require large amounts of RAM. 2 gig of RAM is typically more than sufficient, and some installs, particularly Linux-based installs, can often happily run with less, of course. More RAM won't hurt, and you will certainly be helpful if you're also doing other things on your computer. So if you're doing other server stuff, whatever it might be. A NAS device. So here's Plex talking about a NAS device. Running a Plex media server on a NAS device is a popular option, as it allows for an all-in-one device that not only runs the server but also stores lots of content. However, most NAS devices have some limitations when it comes to running a Plex media server, so it may not be the best choice for everyone. Again, straight from Plex's website. This is what they're saying, not me. So everybody needs to know this information. Related page, NAS devices, you can read through that. Supported NAS devices, they have a whole list of supported NAS devices and information on them. I'm not going to get into all of that. NAS compatibility list. You should run Plex Media Server. Should you run Plex Media Server on a NAS? This is a good one. As mentioned earlier, running Plex Media Server on a NAS device can be a great choice for some users, but it may not be appropriate for everyone. By far, the biggest limitation that most users will encounter is that most consumer NAS devices don't have very powerful CPUs. In some cases, the device will run on an ARM-based processor. That's not capable of transcoding content at all. ARM-based processors are not capable of transcoding content at all. Remember that. So when you start having multiple people and you need the transcoding capabilities, your processor is not going to be able to do it if you're running an ARM-based processor. So remember that when purchasing whatever you're going to purchase to do your Plex server. Other times it may run on an Intel processor that's technically capable of transcoding, but the processor may be too slow to transcode fast enough for most users, i.e. a slow Celeron that's dual core that's not a very fast megahertz speed, is what they're talking about there. We have a detailed article to help you decide what's the right choice. So you can take a look, look at the detailed article. What I really liked was looking at the information on what kind of CPU do I need for my server? What kind of CPU do I need for my server? This really lays it out really, really good, because if you go down here, they're going to tell you CPU requirements. No transcoding, Intel Atom, 1.2 gigahertz NAS device based on ARM processor. Should be capable of at least one stream with no transcoding. One stream with no transcoding. One stream. So if you're the only one that has your NAS, and you're the only one that, if you're the only one watching on it, then you're cool with your Intel Atom processor. There you go. You got one guy that's going to watch something on it with no transcoding, by the way, because the Intel Atom processor is ARM based, so you can't transcode on it. So make sure. I would say I would not get a NAS that runs an Atom processor if you're wanting to do Plex on that NAS. Another thing, single 720p transcode, Intel Core i3, 3 gigahertz. Single 1080p transcode, Intel Core i5. A single 4K transcode, Intel Core i7. This is what the requirements that they're telling you need from Plex. So when you go down here, you can see the passmark scores, right? These are passmark scores you need to be able to handle certain things. Now you can go to passmark and you can punch in a certain CPU and you can get an idea on what the passmark score should be on that CPU, and you can get an idea on what how that CPU is going to do for your Plex. This is what you want to do. You need to do the research, find out exactly. This is what I did when I went to go figure out what I was going to do with my Plex. Is to get my feet wet, I started with the bare minimum, which was, something that didn't work very well. And then I got a machine that worked a little bit better. It was an Intel Celeron, and there wasn't really too many people accessing my Plex. It was mostly just me, so I was like, okay, well, this is okay for right now. But then as I got to where I had more friends and family that wanted to watch the Plex, then we needed more power. So if you're going out and you're not doing you're not just doing this basic amount of reading before you're deciding to try to start and build a server like this, then you really need to take a step back, do a little bit of research to find out what you need. I'm doing this to help you guys, so you guys can find out what you need in order to run a proper Plex server for yourself. If you're just starting out and you're just getting your feet wet, you can put Plex on an inexpensive old computer just to get your feet wet to start off. Get yourself an old machine that's dirt cheap, an old i3 under $100, probably 60, 70, $80 or online or from a garage sale or on for out of the things like Craigslist or something like that. There's tons of different ones available out there. Just get something, load it up, get your feet wet, get started. For God's sake, at least spend a few bucks to put a solid state drive in the machine so that it boots the OS on a solid state drive. That would be my recommendation. So I hope that that works out for you.
Yep.
So that hopefully that information is some help. Those are some basics for you to understand, and that is why I don't use a NAS on my network anymore. A NAS that would have had the performance I needed to run Plex the way I want to run it would have just cost way too much money. So that's one of the reasons why I run what I run the way I run it on my particular network, and I'm very happy with the way it runs. It runs terrifically. So just to give you an idea, we will open my Plex really quick.
Be sure how you watch it so you won't get no.
Yeah, I'm not gonna play any video. I just kind of want to show you guys how it's laid out, and to give you guys kind of an idea. Oh, actually, you know what? I think it might be shut off right now. I think at the moment, I think I have it shut. I think it might be shut down at the moment. Yeah, it's currently unavailable. Yeah.
What'd you do? Did somebody hack you again?
No, I think I shut it down because I was actually doing some experimenting and I forgot I had it turned off. Let me go turn it back on.
Was you messing around with that picture I told you about? He's gonna screw around with my adults.
I don't think so.
I'm just checking some stuff about what do you call it? Keyboards right now. I was just looking at keyboards and stuff. Yeah, I gotta find some stuff with a docking type situation for thing. And when I go to bed tonight, I'll have need to charge my devices tonight for sure. Hope all is good today with everybody.
All right. It should come back up here in just a moment. So I'm gonna go back to Plex here. Let's see. Retry connection. There we go. Yeah, I had it opened up because my friend, he was interested in buying one of those machines for himself, and he wanted to see inside the machine, so I shut it down to show it to him earlier, and I forgot to turn it back on. But yeah, so as you can see, what I have is I have a bunch of different select sections. So I specifically have a new episodes section and new movies section that I go into for new movies and new episodes. And if I go to comedy, there's comedy there. There's sci-fi. That's classic sci-fi, and then I have another sci-fi section. But there is, I have a ton of different sections here, right? So a lot of people will say, well, how do you get these different sections? Well, I've been building this for a lot of years, and the way I actually do my Plex is here's my server, and here's all the different sections on my server. These are all different drives. Now, this is what when people talk about a NAS, a network attached storage, that's what they're talking about. This is all the storage off my Plex and my FTP server. And so these can actually be mapped to in here if I want to. So I could set it up as a drive letter. So let's just say my animation section, and I want to map that. I'm going to finish. As soon as I've mapped that in Windows here, I can then go over here and I can see that drive right here. I can go into there, go to the animation, go to TV series. There's all my TV series for animation. I got everything in separate folders. Everything's organized on multiple drives. I've got, I don't know, I've got well over 100, 120 terabytes total, including all of my content plus my content backed up on different drives. So that's why I was saying 16 terabytes, 32. If I do five 16 terabytes in a thing, I'll probably be pretty good for my storage. But I do have a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff on my Plex. So it is a very big Plex, and that's why a lot of my family and friends want to watch stuff on it. So
Ah, there we go. Check that out. Someone just said, "Hey, uh, I lasted a month before I got tired of a small computer running my Plex. I got a small Synology 5-bay NAS
DS
that
1019
station
plus.
full."
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, as long as you get something that has the power, then you're good. One of the reasons why I say to go with an actual PC, even as long at the bare minimum, a small form factor, is because you have that half height video card slot. So what you can actually do is you can add a video card that will give you more hardware transcoding. So you put a 1650 or 1660 NVIDIA card, and mostly you want to put an NVIDIA card. Those are the most compatible with Plex. Then you're going to really increase your capabilities of the transcoding at the end of the day.
I
Now,
really like the looks of the QNAMPs, man. Those QNAMPs that just lay down
mm-hmm,
and you can put as much stuff into it.
yeah,
Those QNAMPs are
yeah,
gorgeous.
QNAP makes some really nice stuff. The other thing too is so if we look at eBay, right? Bear NAS case, right? Let's see. So if we go down here, you're gonna find some cases like in one computer case, pull out hot swappable chassis 5-in-1, NAS silent case 4-bay K3. So if you look at these units, and you have a case like this right here, and there's nothing in this. These are just blank cases ready for you to build your NAS into. It looks like this comes with a power supply. Some of them have redundant power supplies.
Don't you wish you could run like an operating system, like several operating system to that? But it's all it is. Well, that one right there with like the one I think that's the Dell Edge right there. The one that's like what is it? Like one of the first ones to what you have on your thing. I would think that you could probably add some stuff to it.
But you can you a server is just going to be running all the time. So whatever operating system you're running on it is going to be something. You're most of the time these units you turn them on and run them and leave them, and that's usually what you want to do with one of these NAS servers, and or a server period, whatever server you're setting up. I mean, I just have a problem with the term NAS. I mean, because I think everybody should just call them servers. I mean, that was like the original term. Uh, because I'm almost 30 years 30, I'm almost 30 years in IT now, and I mean, it's just the term should be server. These are all just different kinds of servers. So, it just depends on the kind of server you want. I mean, some people do Raspberry Pis. They actually do a Raspberry Pi as a Plex server too. And that's an ARM processor. It doesn't do any transcoding. And even most of the competent people that do videos about using a Raspberry Pi as a Plex server on YouTube will tell you right from the beginning that it's a low-end device. It's really, really not meant properly for running a Plex server. So, sometimes doing some of this stuff, it's like, why? In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, I'm just like, why? I don't get it sometimes. I mean,
Everyone's got their difference of preference. Someone
yeah, but
probably
why are you going to build
higher
something that's
4K streams, and some people may just be fine with 1080p.
why are you going to build something though that's really not meant to run it properly? I mean, you can't do one of the main things Plex is meant to be able to do, which is to transcode content.
And
So,
but like I was trying to tell you though, it's not maybe not a lot of people. We're trying to do the same thing as everybody.
well, if they're just
Everyone's
running,
got something way
if they're
different.
if all you're doing is running one stream, maybe two, then you're going to be fine with some of the lower end devices. And I, went over that off of Plex's website. So there is infinite number of different types of cases.
Or if you put an operating system in that 319, that 320 one I'm looking at, the one that was way up there. I like that. The one that looks cool. Check that one out with different colors.
The whoops
The 6299 on demand.
with the propellers.
Yeah. Well, it happens to be what everybody wants to go for is their own.
Silverstone's a well-known company that makes cases. They probably make a pretty nice NAS case here.
The thing is, can you put your own CPU and
Yeah,
I won't.
yeah. It's ITX. ITX is a form factor, is a standard. So it's if you buy this, you purchase an ITX motherboard to put in it.
How many drives should that or could that support?
This particular one, it looks like it might only be it might only be two drives. I don't know. Let me see. I don't know. I'm looking. You know what I'm looking? Oh, I'm looking on the back here. No, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 drives, but I'm not sure what size drives those might. I don't know if those are full size drives or if those are smaller drives, because there's all different kinds.
I'd like to play around with making a NAS, but like making it several different operating systems would be kind of
Why?
cool.
Why are you gonna do? You mentioned that before, and I tried to ignore you because it's just a stupid statement. It's a server. You run one operating system. It boots up. It runs 24 hours a day. Why? What? It's not a server. It's not a server if you're running different operating.
There's a thing for it. If you want to use multiple operating systems on one little device, I think it'd be kind of freaking cool.
Cool, yeah. If that's a device you're actually physically in front of using, but NASs aren't meant to be that. They are a server. They sit there, they boot up, and you access them over your network. You don't sit on them and use them.
A lot of people do a lot of different things with them nowadays. It's their personal preference. Just because we have a personal preference on something, don't mean everybody else has that same
So then you're not gonna,
idea about it.
if you're just gonna use it as a computer and not gonna use it as a network attached storage, then why are you going to get a NAS in the first place? You should just buy a computer then, because then
Not a lot of people have the network expertise to totally make it to go outside their house or inside. It's easy to make it go and work inside your house, but as well as you know, as well as I know, without bridging and stuff like that, maybe people want something like a simple thing.
Hmm. you 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 go ahead and do whatever you feel you want to do and experiment with. It's all good. Everybody can do their own thing. I can disagree, and that's about all I'm going to say about that. I mean, it's just it just is what it is. um, a server is a server, and if you're not using it as a server, if it's not just sitting there running to serve what it's meant to serve, then it's not a server anymore. It then becomes a workstation because you're you're sitting in front of it, using it and working on it, which makes it a workstation. So it those are the definitions right there. So if whatever you're going to do with your machine, you can do whatever you want to with your own machines. I'm not going to tell nobody that what they can or can't do with their own stuff they buy. um, I'm just trying to give people recommendations what I think would be the best route to go. So anyway, there is a Google Meets link in here if anybody wants to, as would want to jump in. We'll probably be shutting the show down here shortly. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming to the show, listening to the information I had to offer about why I'm not using a NAS on my for me on my network anymore, and the reasons I'm not, and uh, the details I gave on Plex's site, telling you what kind of equipment you should buy to make sure you get the right stuff. I don't want you listening to necessarily to a bunch of YouTubers telling you what you should or should not get. If you're going to set up a nice Plex, you should go to Plex directly, the guys that make the software, and go by their recommendations. You'll be much happier if you do, because I did, and I was much happier once I got a machine that met the requirements for my needs as for my Plex. And I probably am going to buy a Plex Pass later this year, at some point in time, now that I finally have the hardware that I think warrants getting a Plex Pass. Because there's no use in getting a Plex Pass if you don't have the hardware for it. So, for instance, if you've got a NAS that's running, or you're running your Plex server on a ARM-based processor, the main reason to get a Plex Pass is for hardware transcoding. You don't have any hardware that can transcode anything if you're running it on an ARM-based unit. So don't get a Plex Pass if that's the case. At any rate, that's just some. And for God's sake, try to get something that's an i3 or an i5 or maybe even better. I mean, there's tons of good stuff out there that you can get. If you can afford a high-end NAS, by all means, go for it. There's really nice NASs out there. Just look at the specs, look at the hardware, and cross-reference that with whatever your needs are as far as what you're going to run on your server. Maybe you're not going to run a Plex server. Maybe you're going to run a whole different type of server. Maybe you want a Minecraft server. I don't know. Maybe you're just wanting to set something up that's going to be you just want to share some files, and you just want to set up a web server, FTP server. Maybe you just want the NAS to sit there and hold the content, and maybe you're going to run another machine to be the actual Plex server. Maybe that's the way you want to do it. And see, this is my point. There's more than one way to do it. There's multiple ways to set up whatever you're going to set up. So, take some time to figure out what that best way for you is. Because, it'll make all the difference if you just take a few minutes, get some consulting from an expert that knows what they're talking about. Because I've set up I've helped people set up a few Plex servers in their home, here in this area, and did really well with what I had them set up, and they're very happy. So in my cases, I counseled them all to go to the direction of running a nice little Dell machine, and it worked out good for them. Small form factor with at least an i5 in it can do the job. I've even set them up with i3s. Obviously, an i7 will give you even more performance. Throw some more RAM in there, even better. Just depends on your budget and how much you want to spend. So, for instance, price is very important. Depending, because a lot of people don't have a lot of extra money these days. My particular server that I just did, I already had all my hard drives. I already had all my content. That particular server only cost me 90 something, like $92, including shipping and everything from eBay. $92. It came with no operating system. I had to load it. It did come with the everything. It came with everything but the 6 terabyte NAS drive I put in it. It came with the 256 gig solid state. It came with the 8 gig of RAM and the i5. It came complete and a 2 gig video card in it. So if you think you can't get them for a cheap price, you sure can. I mean, you could get something for a very inexpensive price. It's not going to break the bank for you. So just remember that you don't have to necessarily spend a whole bunch of money. You can save money, get more hard drive storage, or to get your feet wet. Like I said, you can spend 60, 70, 80, 90 something dollars like I did, and it's going, and that's not just going to be for getting your feet wet. That'll be a can be a NAS / Plex server machine that you can run in your home for years and years and years, because those machines go, they go and go and go. So they're awesome machines. Any last words you want to let everybody know, Gary?
Well, it just is what it is. Thank you for coming out. Those who came out, I wish people would have clicked the link, but hey, we'll get them next time.
Hey, no big deal. I just wanted to spread some knowledge out there for people. Hope everybody's having a very good night. I know it's Sunday night. Probably a lot of people are busy with family or doing things, doing this and that. And for me, this was a lot about just doing some testing for me with my my little studio set up here. What I've got set up, just trying to get things smoothed out, get things right. For me to start publishing and making some more videos for all of you, to get you guys some content that will hopefully help you out. But I'm gonna do a lot more computer and network content, and to help you guys out. And if there's any content you're specifically looking for, put it in the comment section. If there's a specific conversation you would like to have a live show about, or if there's a specific video you would like me to do about some thing, whatever it might be, then go ahead and put a comment down below. I'll be happy to take a look at that, and if I'm able to do a video on it, if I'm knowledgeable on the particular subject that you're wanting help on, I will certainly try to do that. So you guys have a great night, and sleep tight. I'll see you guys again in the next show. And this was Mr. On Demand, man with the master plan, to give you the best NAS that you can. See you again, man. You guys have a good one. Bye.